Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to the last day of the conference. As Marisol said, my name is Jeff Freilich. I am program lead for AI literacy as part of RAISE. RAISE, if you remember, Responsible AI for Social Empowerment and Education. And a big emphasis on the social and a big emphasis on the empowerment. I'm going to talk to you right now about a program that I'm particularly excited about that I've been running for the last 4 years, along with collaborators from a company called SureStart. And this is a program called MIT FutureMakers. And soon I'll explain what you're seeing on the screens behind me. So imagine that you have 100 middle school, high school, and first-year undergraduate students from across the country over 6 weeks in the middle of the summer. About half of them are girls or young women, and they span about 20 different US states, including Puerto Rico, where they're from. Half of them, or over half of them, are from under-resourced, underserved communities, including schools that receive Title I funding. Title I funding is what the Department of Education gives to schools that need for particular underserved communities, for those who are not from the US. A large portion of them are either now first-generation college students or are poised to become one. And what are they going to do over 6 weeks in the summer when they either don't have a summer job or all their friends and their peers are away? Well, over the last 4 summers, MIT RAISE with SureStart have been helping open up several hundred young minds to AI, data science, IoT, with project-based learning experiences in App Inventor and Python, all centered around design thinking, computational action, entrepreneurship, and self-discovery of who they are or who they're planning to become. And they can do it for free. So because we can't bring these 100 or so kids here to MIT, although we are thinking about it, and it would be really nice, but over 6 weeks is kind of hard to do. But summer after summer, one thing we can do is we can go out to them at home in their community centers, just before their summer job shift, wherever they may be, as long as they have internet access and a laptop. And in some cases, like with App Inventor, we may also have to loan them a tablet, which we do. We don't go out physically, but as we all know, after 3 years of pandemic, we can go out through Zoom. And it gives them plenty of practice. The best way to work with these student participants in FutureMakers is with mentors. And the mentors are really the most important part of the program. So every summer we hire somewhere about 18 or 20 computer science undergraduates, sometimes graduate students. All of them have some sort of background in teaching. They all have a deep commitment to working with these kids. Some of them come from the same communities of the kids we're working with. Now, the mentors also are working over Zoom. So there's a big challenge here. We have to get kids that are already not really wanting to return to that model of having to attend classes over Zoom, but to be part of this engaging experience that we call FutureMakers. So the FutureMakers, it's a carefully constructed curriculum, and it's organized into 4 tracks. We have a middle school track, high school track. We have a high school and undergraduate track, which is track 3, and track 4 around data activism, and a word on that later. The first 2 tracks are for middle school, high school students, and it's all focused on developing mobile apps. And mobile apps, usually we're using App Inventor for computational action. I think we've already discussed what computational action here is, but it's a project-based approach to applying computational thinking to real-world problems, problems that the developer, that the person actually creating the app feels some sort of connection, maybe not directly, but at least through their peers. And they're meeting their peers, they're working with their peers. And the problems themselves have to be real-world enough so that they have a real interest in it. And they learn a lot about it, and they have to research it. They have to understand a little more about it. So these projects may use technologies like AI or IoT or data science or whatever it might be, or may not. The important thing is they want to do an app that their friends might use, that their community might use, or someone they don't even know because they have a specific purpose. And sometimes these apps will use real-world things that are technologies like sensors and actuators, and that's part of the program itself. The third track is for those with a little bit of programming experience. It takes a deeper dive into Python programming, Jupyter Notebooks, TensorFlow, things like that, all these libraries. And it applies a lot of deep learning principles. Those are for kids that have a little bit of Python experience, but they don't have to be programmers. The fourth track you heard about yesterday, that's with Rachel Walker in data activism. And yeah. Yes, there is. I asked for that, and there's a reason. I wanted you to hear them a little bit. Thank you. These are the kids talking. These are the final presentations. And I just put together all of last year's participants. You can see in some of them, their Zoom is right on the top. I have at least some self-auto-generated captions. You can read what they're doing. This really is the important part, this is their final project. They're presenting right now to judges, and they'll be doing it again in 2 weeks. So the FutureMakers program itself starts with getting them to understand the program, getting them to understand the environment, the app inventor, the Jupyter Notebooks, the TensorFlow, whatever it might be, data activism with data science tools. We also imbue into that professional skill building. We want to teach them how to make a resume. We want to teach them how to present effectively. This is part of what they're learning. They're doing problem solving. They're learning about the science of problem solving. They listen to industry executives from big companies and from MIT researchers. And this all is supposed to be rounding out the coding skills that they're learning, because they're not thinking of themselves necessarily as becoming a coder. They're thinking of themselves as becoming a problem solver. And they're doing it with their peers. And they're doing it virtually. And they're doing it with someone who's a little bit older than them, but might have gone through the same experience. So the key component of this curriculum is what we call the Create-a-thon. The Create-a-thon is a hackathon, and it's all done virtually. And we do it over the last 2 weeks of the program. After they've already learned, they become familiar with their tools. And it's chaotic, because hackathons are meant to be chaotic. The mentors aren't there to teach them. They're not there to give them ideas. They're there to kind of help them, encourage them, make sure they're all talking, team building, get over the Zoom problems. But it's really where the rubber meets the road. Excuse me. We start planning for the Create-a-thon already in the 3rd or 4th week. And what we do is we give them an overview of some of the UN Sustainability Development Goals. You've probably seen that big chart of all the different topics they can think about. They don't have to choose something for that. And what's really interesting is what they choose. None of it's tech. If you look at even some of the things they're doing app demos right now. This is all on YouTube. They do things like loneliness, overcoming loneliness. When we started doing this at the beginning of the pandemic, they were, in the middle of the pandemic, they were developing things of how to overcome loneliness, how to be able to talk to your parents when they're in the next room, but you really don't want to see them. They were coming up with apps how to deal with foster child care, coming up with apps with how to identify someone having a stroke, which became a company, by the way, and they've already received some funding. What's really cool about the FutureMakers concept is we help them to practice working under a tight deadline. There's pressure. Who here has a job that they're not under pressure? So we want to give the kids the ability to experience it, but in a fun way. And we let them create. We let them create their apps, and then we go and deliver their apps. So we do it about 2.5 to 3 hours a day on weekdays over these 5.5, 6 weeks. And we've been doing it for 4 years. And some of the kids that have been starting as participants became mentors. And some of the mentors have become employees. So we have companies that are very interested in knowing what we're doing. On your schedule, I think you'll see an impact report from last year. I encourage you to look at it and to read it just to see what our reach is and what we're trying to do. We really do believe this model translates to a lot of different places in the world. We know what's really important is the mentors. If you can get good mentors, you can really work almost anywhere. but we want to really guide and encourage them to say that your idea when you're going to imbue AI and the concept they're learning right now in school into something that is meaningful to them, they can really just start to design where they're going to be, who they really think they are later on in the future. And many of them come back and tell us that's what we've done. We've had in that report, you'll see a lot of them have gone to colleges and have gone and thought about other companies and ways that are going to work. I'm going to ask, please, if we might play the short video at the end. We do have judges in the Create-a-thon. The winners of the Create-a-thon, we fly out to ASU GSV, the conference in San Diego and sometimes in Texas, I think. That is a really big deal for these kids. We let them go with their mentors. There's middle school, high school, some college kids. They are now presenting to a room like you, full of investors that are rapt. They are watching them and they're so excited. Can you imagine what the kids are feeling? They are just drinking it all in. They love it. So we've done this already 2 years in a row. We have funding from MIT Office of Open Learning that help us be able to do this. This is something that the kids don't necessarily have to aspire to, but when they look and they see their peers that they've worked with doing this, it's inspiring of their own. So what I would like to be able to just draw off here, and I think I might be out of time, but I want to make sure I can answer some questions, but there's a slide, if you don't mind putting up. Our judging, the end of the Create-a-thon, is on Friday, August 9th. I invite any one of you to watch the judging, so you get to watch it live. I'm not going to give you a website because they're kids, although they've signed releases to have it. We don't want to publicize it, but if you just send me an email, let me know you're interested. I'm very happy to keep you on the list and make sure you can watch it. This is an exciting program, and we would really look forward to hearing your thoughts about FutureMakers. We think these kids really are going to be making their future. So any questions? Thank you. That's it. Any questions? Yes? I'm sorry? So that's a great question. So the question was, are there any versions of this program that we can do after this one? The sustainability aspect of making sure that there's somewhere to go is incredibly important. Yes, so we're plugged into most of the MIT Innovation and Education networks, so we make a lot of suggestions. This is a completely free program. We get thousands of applications every year. We only have room for 100 each time. It's mostly because we have to hire mentors, and it's not even financial. It's really just managing the logistics of doing the Zoom and keeping everybody on track, making sure the teams are only 5 kids apiece. But yes, what we'll do is the mentors all give them opportunity to be in contact with them. Some of them may want to be, they're invited to be mentors in future years. Some of them even come back and do a different track. In general, we usually just provide them with the resources of what they can do. We would very much like to be in touch with them because we want to know, did we have an impact? We see so far over the 4 years that we've been able to measure at least that a lot of them are at least a tribute to what they've done or a lot of the decisions they made, some of the skills they thought about as being partially imparted by the FutureMakers. Yes? Who gets them? Anybody. Well, so right now it's just in the US. The reason for the US is because it has to be English speaking and it has to work over the same time zone where we can do it synchronously. The synchronous part is important, as you can surmise. We've had some people apply from Hawaii, which is more time zones. We'll adjust for that. Kids are in the West Coast. We generally start around noon and we finish around 3 o'clock, something like that, 2:30, 3 o'clock. There are special workshops that we also do that might go a little bit later. And when they're in the hackathon, some of them will even work over the weekend. So we give them all the resources they need in order to be able to create their apps and present their apps. People have asked, can we let people from outside the US? It would be great to be able to develop something like that, bring it to a particular region of the world where we can use the FutureMakers model. But as I said, it really depends on being able to hire mentors, the good mentors, and then think about how many people we should have in each team and how long the program should be. Here, the summer months are perfect, but there are others. We usually have to do the application process really early because kids have their summer plans already in production before we can get them to commit. They do have to commit to staying in the program. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, in the back?
Jeff, what about packaging it up so that other universities, other organizations, even corporations could run their own version of FutureMakers?
Absolutely. When you think about it, all of our curriculum is really is Creative Commons open source. What makes this really important is a use of a partner such as SureStart. They're very, very good at organizing. They wrote part of the curriculum in track 3. They do all of the work of inviting the special speakers. Recruiting kids is not easy because you want to be able to find the most deserving kids and also the kids that can have commitment, and they have to be all over the US. If you go in and make this public, every kid will want to go and do it. And we can't necessarily say, well, you deserve and you don't deserve it. So we work with a lot of partners that are both in MIT, outside of MIT, that help encourage the kids to recruit, to apply to the program. And then we usually spend about a month or so going over all the applications and until we're eventually able to offer admission, which is free. So, good. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.